Right, let's take a look at stage 6, 200 kilometres, setting out from Cordoba. It's not the high mountains, they're still to come, but it's a typically backloaded Vuelta stage. 2 third category climbs inside the final 70 kilometres, the Alto de Baeza at just under 800 metres, and the Alto de Cazorla at a little over 900. Officially, it's only 3.3 kilometres long, but the riders will have been climbing for 20 kilometres to get there. There's a short dip just after the 5 kilometre mark before the final kick up to the line.
Well, beautiful body position, incredibly still, incredibly concentrated, really measured effort, but he is flat out, and it's a question of can he keep this pace up, because it's relentless. So he's a good time trialist as well, and remarkably for a man of his stature, he goes uphill pretty fast. And the gap we're hearing is actually 59 seconds according to the race radio. So slightly better news for Steve Cummings than you might have been led to believe. Cummings will be getting this information, I'm sure, relayed from his director sportif following on in the team car behind, and he'll know, and he'll take a great deal of encouragement from that when he attacked, he had nothing like that kind of advantage, or the 6 riders are being whittled in, and he's managed to ride away from not only his breakaway companions, but, for the time being at least, from the entire Vuelta.
Yeah, you can see how the peloton has shrunk down quite a lot already. So it's, the pace is incredibly high, and yet still Steve is taking time out. We can see at the front of the green helmets of Canador Garmin, who'll be setting up Dan, who after the last few days will be super motivated to try and get a result out of this. But apart from that, it's quite hard to see. Got Sky doing the GCs, all the GC teams there really.
53 seconds, it's just not changing. Cummings is holding absolutely rock steady at this point. 5.5 kilometres to go. And David Miller, you've been in this position, you've been the lone breakaway rider, and you've felt this kind of pressure bearing down on you. You must oscillate wildly between belief and despair all the time and tread that thin line, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on your feeling. To see Steve there, he's strong and he's been in control, and for sure he's going to be hurting a lot now. I mean, I think we just saw a little look on his face before and was shaking his head. But I mean, he knows he's doing a great ride, but he also knows what lays ahead and how much faster the peloton will start to go, as he totally naturally is going to be tiring. The peloton behind us is going to be speeding up and speeding up.
The sun baking down then, and the peloton bearing down on Steve Cummings, whose resistance is extraordinary. He passes under the 5 kilometre barrier now, knowing that if he can sustain this effort for the next 7-8 minutes, he'll get up this climb on his own, and then it's down to how much strength he has in reserve. He'd been in this position before. He's won a stage on this race 3 years ago, and more recently than that, he's won a stage through a combination of brawn and brains on the Tour de France. He'll need brawn in large measure, because very little brains come into play here. He's on his own, and he simply has to hold off this chase. But there is a lot at stake now. As you see, the pace is being raised on this false flat. Well, it's almost a climb here. They're out of their saddle, most of them at the front of the race there. Movistar leading the peloton up this road and under the 5 kilometre barrier, and you can see all the damage at the back then as riders are being shelled off. The green jersey there, for the first time we've seen him today. He doesn't fancy it today, apparently. So what's he doing up there? Is he working for his teammate, Rafa Majka, the climber, who is in second wheel there? Perhaps Sagan in domestic duty today for him, or perhaps Sagan fancies it himself. You never really know with that man. Nicolas Roche just passing through the shot there in Team Sky, and Alejandro Valverde.
There's Chavez coming up in the white jersey, with Daryl Impey placing him. But what's interesting, that Peter Sagan was just a few minutes ago was last in the punch, and it looked like he was just going to sit up soon. So it goes to show how strong he is when everyone else is getting spat out the back, and he's just passed by them all and moved right back up to the front to look after Majka.
Yeah, never say never with Peter Sagan. Indomitable. That's Giovanni Visconti working for both Quintana and Alejandro Valverde today. Haven't got to this man yet though. 27 seconds. His advantage is beginning to come down, it has to be said. Maybe that's because the road has gone uphill for the last kilometre or so, and now there's a bit of descending. Whether or not Cummings can eke anything out of the bunch and just pull away a little bit further. Certainly he's giving his legs a little bit of relaxation, which they will be burning from the effort now. 4 kilometres now to go for the chase, and it is really, really on now. So he's got 400 metres advantage. There's no point in pedalling at these kind of speeds. You can't go any faster than the descending will allow you here. So he's in a full aero tuck position, just trying to get everything as low to the frame as possible and down this sweeping, smooth road as fast as he possibly can. Pretty soon now, when he gets to the bottom of this descent, it will kick uphill. It starts to do that just outside 2 kilometres to go. And when he hits the climb, I hope he's prepared for what's to come, because there are sections in the lower slope just before 2 kilometres, one in particular that is almost like a wall. So 20 seconds. You would have thought now that won't be enough, will it? Unless you have the ride of his life up this climb.
No, sadly no, normally no, but because, I mean, that's the problem. Steve's been out there all day. He's going to be just battling. He's just done a massive effort to do that gap and get away, and now these guys are all coming with their kamikaze pulls off the front. Each one, that's Daryl Impey on the front now for Green Edge, who's placing Chavez, who's in perfect position there, and but he's going to pull off in a second and just peel off, exploding.
Esteban Chavez, yeah, and Cofidis take it up now. Cofidis perhaps working for Dani Navarro today. Movistar, very interested, and they begin to climb now. 2.5 kilometres for Steve Cummings, and the road is already going uphill. 17 seconds now as Cofidis try and bring it back to Steve Cummings, who's still up the road on his own. Just 15 seconds his advantage. And look at Esteban Chavez, really prominent now in the white combination jersey and fourth wheel there behind those two Movistar riders. Valverde just behind him though, and Sky trying to track his move. So the heat is on now, and the battle is about to unfold on this.
Chavez is going.
So Chavez is going, so don't believe the hype. He said publicly, "There's not a day for me today." It's a big opportunity, of course, for him to regain his leader's jersey. Just 1 second he has to take back off Tom Dumoulin, and he can do that at a canter, especially, of course, if he goes on up this slope and wins the stage. He gets himself 10 seconds bonus, let alone any gaps that he is managing to eke out. But this is an explosive acceleration by the Colombian.
That was phenomenal, going right from the bottom as well. It's actually the perfect moment. You see everyone's just sitting up here. It's Peter Sagan. That shows you how steep it is.
Well,
look at the speed Chavez is going.
Sagan is giving himself a day off and almost unclipping his shoes. You wouldn't imagine he's going to walk up, but Chavez just goes past Steve Cummings, whose ground holds virtually, almost literally, on these horrible slopes now. Steve Cummings found that all too much. Boom, he's gone. That's the end of the day for him, but what a great ride it was. As Chavez continues now to hurl himself up this wall, and it is incredibly steep. That's a 15% gradient, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's Lawson Craddock, I think, on the front for Giant Alpecin, whose job now is to try and bring that back, so that bring back Chavez. All they're interested in is the GC here.
Dumoulin's red leader's jersey is there. It's in, which is an extraordinary effort for him. He's about fourth wheel now. An Astana rider, I think that might well be Fabio Aru, and Joaquim Rodriguez or Danny Moreno, couldn't quite identify them, very closely in front of him. So Dumoulin in the red jersey is living with some of the best climbers. TJ Van Garderen is there, Nairo Quintana is there, that is Aru and Valverde, and I think that is Rodriguez, and there is Tom Dumoulin, a big Dutch time trialist, living in their company. He's learning so much about himself on this Vuelta.
Nice. Amazing. Lawson Craddock's doing a great ride as well. I mean, last time we saw him was Tour of Yorkshire, I think, on that last stage where he did a great ride as well.
He did indeed.
Nicholas Roche is there as well, so it's interesting to see. Oh, here we go. There's Dumoulin's actually going himself, so he's realised his teammates run out of gas, and he's going to have to take matters into his own hands. Well,
now the terrain suits Tom Dumoulin much better, because you can time trial your way up this. The gradients are much less substantial. It's something like 4 or 5% now, all the way to the finish, although it kicks up in stages within the final kilometre. But Dumoulin, if you can just find his rhythm here and limit the damage, he's ridden away from the GC group now. I say the GC group, he's the GC leader, but he's ridden away from the big favourites who don't seem too intent at the moment on tracking him down. This is all about a battle between the two men at the front of this race. This is about Dumoulin and Chavez, who've been duelling over this first fascinating week of the Vuelta. Can Dumoulin get across once again to the tiny Colombian climber? The two are a mismatch, but they are so closely aligned on this Vuelta. Such a huge difference in their riding profiles and the way they look. But the way they're battling on this opening week of the Vuelta has been absolutely fascinating. Two young, fresh names.
It's rare you see something like this early in the race. The first and second on GC really taking for him. And it's a great ride by Chavez. He went right from the bottom of the climb. Didn't even hesitate, didn't play games, didn't need anything set up. He's just gone. He wants that jersey back. And you can see how fast Chavez is going again. Because it's turning into every man for himself here. There's no more domestics to control it. That's Nicolas Roche, who's chasing Maika, Valverde on the wheel. I think that's either Danny Moreno and Navarro who's leading there.
Yeah.
But there's Chris Froome just at the bottom of the screen, and so Mine Keys from MTN Quebec. Dan Martin, here goes Dan Martin on the right. So this is Dan's move now, he has to go.
Right, Martin has to attack, as you say. The road is running out. 900 metres for the leaders, a little bit more for these, but Martin's acceleration has done a lot of damage here. No one, well, I think that's one of the Cofidis riders there, has just managed to latch onto him. That is Danny Navarro. Navarro is with with Martin. Those two now, as he passes under the kite now. 1 kilometre to go for Martin, bringing Navarro with him. And the Katusha rider, Alberto Losada, those three then are trying to get across to the red jersey of Tom Dumoulin and get past him. Now, Dan Martin's dropped the rest now. Martin, third on the road, looking for a stage win, if not better. But he'll have to get first of all to Tom Dumoulin and then to Chavez. Has he left it too late?
I think he has, unfortunately. Chavez is still putting time. But this is a great move by Dennis. Oh, he's coming up. I mean, he said quickly he's coming up to Tom Dumoulin. He's just got to get that. But Chavez is still 12 seconds ahead of Tom Dumoulin, I think. So I think that's the time gap we're looking at there. Is the 12 seconds, to Tom Dumoulin, who's now starting to creep a little bit fatigued. But Dan Martin, this is where he's at his best. He's got 600 metres, 500 metres. Look at him. He can just go so deep regards to lactate.
There's a counter-attack there as well by a Lampre Merida rider who's trying to get across to Dan Martin. So 4 individual riders spread out on this final climb. Just 500 metres to go for Chavez, who's suffering, but he's not cracked yet.
Nicolas Roche going now.
So Roche goes, and he brings with him Alejandro Valverde, and he brings with him, that is Danny Moreno or Joaquin Rodriguez. That's Rodriguez. That is Joaquin Rodriguez. But Chavez, I think he's won this, 400 metres to go, and when he looks over his shoulder, which he doesn't dare do at the moment, oh, he does. Now he looks, and he hasn't seen will not see anyone on the road behind him, because no one can live with his acceleration at the moment. Not for want of trying, but Chavez has blown this race apart. As there's an attack now from one of the cazorla riders. All these men just trying to better their GC position. They won't have any realistic chance of winning the stage now, because with 200 metres to go, Esteban Chavez is going to take his second stage win on this Vuelta, and he is going to return himself to his rightful spot of leading this race. He was never going to give it up. Not this man, not this early in the race. And what about Orica Greenedge too? A win yesterday for Caleb Ewan in a bunch sprint. And now Chavez, after an elaborate bluff, they said he didn't fancy it today and that he'd wait for another opportunity. You should never believe them. Orica Greenedge do this time and time again, and Chavez has just done it for a second time. Martin getting the better of Tom Dumoulin for second place, and here come the big favourites. Ruben Plaza there, Alejandro Valverde, Chris Froome in the company of Joaquin Rodriguez and Nicolas Roche all over the line safely and together. But what a win that was from Chavez. Well, all the talk before the Vuelta got underway was of Nairo Quintana. So bitterly disappointed, the Colombian, to finish second to Chris Froome on the Tour de France, and we all thought he'd be the story for Colombia on the Vuelta. But for the time being, he's in the shadows, because this man is taking all the limelight. A second stage win for Esteban Chavez, who crosses himself and bears his famous grin for all to see and for all to enjoy. He's back in red.
5 seconds was his margin on the line from Dan Martin's late charge. He stole the second place bonus from Tom Dumoulin, but that wouldn't have saved Dumoulin's jersey. Still, he rode brilliantly for third. Ruben Plaza led home the favourites, 11 seconds behind the winner. All the top 10 riders were in there. Steve Cummings lost 3 minutes 12 on the final climb after his huge effort to get there in the lead. Cyril Gauthier was at 4:19, Miguel Angel Rubiano 7:10. And in the absence of a stage win for himself from the breakaway, Rubiano will have been pleased to see his Bogotá training partner on the podium. Less pleased, obviously, was the man who started the day in the red jersey, although Tom Dumoulin's ride was as impressive in its way as that of Chavez.
I saw that Valverde and Burrito were looking at each other like always, and I thought I could have taken advantage of that, and I just went for it. And yeah, I went on the actually the false flat, so I thought I would have had a chance to catch him back, but apparently no.
Steve Cummings picked up the day's Fair Play prize, which is an award so vague it's not even given on every stage, but really seemed to be a recognition of his efforts, given that the most aggressive rider prize went to Rubiano.
It was a tough one today, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been like this every other day, a climb like this, so it's quite nice. But yeah, we try again in a few days.
Chris, another tough one and a hot one, and sooner or later someone's going to have to start taking Chavez seriously.
Yeah, I mean, that was... sorry, taking who seriously?
Chavez, the winner, who's back in red.
Yeah, I mean, Chavez showed from day one that he's up for it, so... No, I mean, great ride by him today.
And how are you handling these abrupt little climbs in the heat?
Yeah, they're tricky, and they definitely hurt, so... yeah, just trying to get through these days best we can, but I think tomorrow we're going to see more of a GC shake-up.
And it's a big one tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. But I think the guys have done a great job so far. The team's been really good here, and we've been up there with numbers, so that's the main thing.
Now, the King of the Mountains presentation was entertaining, although not for the two members of podium staff left out there holding the bouquet and the polka dot jersey respectively. Omar Fraile did turn up eventually and the whole thing was restaged, but you can see that any day of the race. Esteban Chavez made 3 appearances for stage, combined jersey and the red of race leader. Orica have now won 3 out of the 6 stages so far and may be making the transition to a team that can contest the race overall more quickly than they planned.
Are you the best climber here, or are people letting you go?
I don't know. We need this question for the other guys. I don't know. I only do the work. I tried. I attack. I enjoy, and I don't know. I say again, it's long way to Madrid.
And the mountains only get tougher along the way. Nonetheless, Chavez is a more than worthy race leader with 10 seconds over Tom Dumoulin. It's still consecutive cousins in 3rd and 4th, although Dan Martin has taken over 3rd place from Nicholas Roach. No change in the rest of the top 10.